That's a nice picture. I just got to say that picture that popped up of you, and I like the old version too.
This one? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it was about 25 years ago.
Oh, great
Okay.
picture.
Yes. All right. So here we go. We are now recording, and we are going to introduce our speakers today. We have two fabulous people who are going to talk to us today. One is John Fitch and Rachel, right? Did I get that right, or did I mess it up? Or Fitch, I'm sorry, John Fitch. Obviously, I need more coffee. And he's going to tell you better what he's going to talk about, because I might flub it. But it's basically about research, and we're all for research. In my house, we're all research people. I'm married to an economist. So we really welcome in the advance of science and technology, and to make life better for everybody, but especially for the community of persons living with dementia is huge. So thank you for being here. And let me just introduce Jennifer Prescott. She's here to talk to us as a representative of Capital Area Parkinson Society, which offers incredible resources and support for people with Parkinson's, and it is tied to dementia. So they will introduce themselves a lot better when they speak, but let's go with John first. We're reversing here because we can. So let's hear from John first, and then we'll move on to Jennifer. John?
So hello, I'm John Fitch, and this is Rachel Williams, who works with us here as well. Rachel happens to be a social worker. I'm mostly a technologist, but have personal experience with dealing as a caregiver for dementia with my mother-in-law for many, many years. And we are with a company called Birkeland Current. And we have part of the technology that we've developed. We've been able to get a grant with the National Institutes of Health, National Institute of Aging, for doing effectively cognitive assessments in situ in the background, utilizing the sensors versus what is typically a more subjective type of discussion. So we'll talk to you at the appropriate time here about the details of the available study. I think this is just the introductory discussion right now.
No, you can go ahead and talk to us now.
Oh, okay. Very good. Very good.
Yes, okay.
So, and I'll share some slides here as well. It's easier to get some of the visuals of what we're talking about. But we're partnered with, so the National Institute of Aging. We've got this 18-month study going on. We're looking for 140 individuals to participate in the study with their caregivers. It's a paid study, and basically, I'll show you a video here in just a moment and such. We're partnered with Texas A&M, the Center for Population Health and Aging. We're partnered with the Baylor Scott and White Health Group out of Temple, and our other major partner is with Georgia Tech on some of the software development that we've got on the back end of this. We've got about 55 people in the study right now out of the 140 that we're looking for. Comfort keepers, we actually have one out of a group in up in the Colorado area that's participating in the study with comfort keepers. So we've got a variety of those things. I'm going to share my screen here and see if this works. And I'm going to make sure that I also share sound so that you can hear the video. Let's see if you're seeing the slides here. Should say Birkeland Current, Smart Caregiving, and Sovereign. Okay, so basically what this technology is, we call it Sovereign IoT, or it's an Internet of Things type of thing, smart health or smart house type technology. So the play on words there is sovereignty, giving you some sovereignty and giving you the information that you need to care going forward. To a large degree, this takes the form, the current form in the study devices of a variety of different sensors that go in the home. The video, which is just a 1-minute video that we'll get to here in just a moment, will show it in detail. But the primary sensor is what effectively is a power strip. And that power strip is what we call a smart power strip. It actually is a node in a real-time location. As you move about the house, we know who is moving about the house and what devices they interact with. And so the combination of those two things allows us to actually look at activities, individual activities. If you're turning on the stove, opening the fridge, washing dishes, etc., we're seeing that, and those that data is translated into activities of daily living. Because of the sensitivity of the real-time location, we're actually able to also see how the caregiver supports those activities. And then we are able to come up with what is called an activity of daily living score just by the background activity. There's no data input, there are no cameras, there's no audio associated with this. This is just basically looking at the real-time location and the devices that you normally interact with as you go about your day. There's about 25 different activities of daily living that we're looking at. They roll up into kind of the 5 that we show here, where we look at short-term, long-term, and midterm trends for the individual's pattern and changes in the behavior pattern, and in these 5 major categories: sleeping, bathrooming, cleanliness, food preparation, and mobility. And so we track about 25 different things behind that, but we're able to look kind of on a daily basis, a weekly basis, and over several months basis to see if there are changes in patterning and behavior. The intent here is to be able to identify those types of changes where an intervention would help significantly before something becomes acute. A simple example of that is relative to UTIs. A UTI is a urinary tract infection, is something that creates significant change in the metabolism of the individual and leads to confusion, irritation, dizziness, falls, etc. And so our system would be able to identify a trend, a change in the behavior of the individual that might allow for a caregiver or a care group to, for example, have them checked for a UTI and potentially fend off something that might be a much more significant event than the basic antibiotics and such that can be used for treating that. Right now, and these are examples, real examples, basically from our system in terms of being able to show as an individual moves through and interacts with the various devices. The study itself came out of really back in 2015. The National Institute of Health, on their Alzheimer's Research Summit, they identified a whole series of things that were gaps in the current way assessments and observations were done. They wanted objective measurements instead of subjective measurements. They wanted continuous data capture for these things versus what is typically an annual or biannual type of assessment that's done. They wanted things that were in the home instead of in a clinic type situation where people come in and answer questions. They wanted actual observational data. The multi-domain measurements is associated with the fact that we can see how things change over time. We can, a simple example is getting items out of the refrigerator? And does the person take more time, overtime, making decisions on what they are seeing in something as simple as the refrigerator? Our system is every 3 seconds is determining, when that door's open and who's there and how long they're taking to make those decisions. That's the type of multi-domain type information that we get. Certainly real-time information that allows for triggers for identifying significant change behaviors, and then the ability to integrate with a variety of other systems that may be as simple as medication, devices that record when people take their medications and such like that. So this is a chart from that we're using as a comparator in this study, associated with assessment scores, these ADL scores, over an 18-month period of time. And so there's a certain sensitivity associated with that, but it's typically months to years to be able to see that, to really quantify that change behavior. This is an example of our system, and I'm not going to go into the details of the data that's being presented there, but basically this is a 10-day period of time, seeing that same type of sensitivity decrease and back increase to normal over just, effectively 10 days. And so on a daily basis, we're seeing that trend in the behavior. And the orange data behind here happens to be associated with mobility. Some of the data up here in the circle happens to be associated with sleep patterns and such like that. And so we're seeing different types of behavior, but having a much more sensitive system being able to do that. The study itself, and I'm going to go ahead and play this video because I think it answers most people's questions just by seeing the 1-minute video that we have. But the study itself is an 18-month study. We're looking for effectively about 140 individual homes associated with this. It is for people 65 and older that receive at least 6 hours of caregiving a week. And that's because we talk to the caregivers to get the comparator using this survey that has been around for about 40 years. So that's what we're actually comparing against. The caregiver itself can be either a professional caregiver or family caregiver, friends or family, but we do need them to be in the house at least 6 hours a week so they can properly answer the surveys. And that's a monthly survey that we do. The caregivers and the individuals, the seniors themselves in the study, the care recipients, are paid $75 a month to participate in the study, and for that full 18 months as well. So it's a paid participation. We come in, install the sensors, and then most of the monthly surveys are about a 20-minute survey that we have with the caregiver. The care recipient effectively has very little that they have to do. So let me go ahead and play this video, and then I'll answer any questions that you might have on that. And let me know if you can not hear the video on this.
It can be a challenge for seniors to keep their independence at home. What could extend independent living, provide peace of mind, identify needs, and reduce costs in the aging population? By installing a series of sensors in the home, we're able to track activity patterns while the senior goes about their day. Our home sensing product includes advanced power strips, water and temperature sensors, cabinet and location sensors. In partnership with the National Institute of Aging and a group of senior care researchers and home care providers, we are developing a continuous data collection technique to document a variety of activities of daily living. Together, we use this technology in home environments to create new techniques for cognitive assessment. This research is specifically designed to accommodate doctors, caregivers, and family members of seniors with early cognitive challenges such as Alzheimer's and dementia. Birkeland Current would install sensors in your residence, and you would be asked to carry a small device in your pocket or on your cane, walker, or wheelchair. After that, you simply go about your normal routine with nothing else required. We appreciate your interest in participating with us in this important 18-month study. Your assistance in this research will help us accomplish the goal of helping seniors stay independent longer while providing opportunities for improved care and reduced cost.
Okay, did that come across?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. And then this is just our website that also has significant additional information associated with the study, and also the opportunity for you to connect with us, and if there's interest, you can just request a contact or call us associated with that. So I'm going to stop the sharing now. I can figure out how to do that, and it's over here on my right screen. Thank you. And then ask any questions that or answer any questions that y'all might have.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, well, I have a couple of comments. As I said, in this Greenblatt household, we're very much into science and technology and research, and it's a necessary thing in order to find out more and about everything, really. And that sounds like it's gibberish. My husband's a research guy, and he's very excited about your project. He's an economist, but deep down, he's a guru with technology. And deep down inside, he's a physicist and mathematician. Okay, so but research, so I said, what are they after? And he said, well, that's what research is about. You explore, and then you find out what you can do. How can you use this data? And I know you have a goal, but we may not know today, before the information is gathered, what you're going to find, obviously, and then how you can use those findings to make life better for the intended community. So I would encourage anybody, unfortunately, we don't make that age limit. We would do, and unfortunately, my husband is bedridden. Otherwise, we would be participating in a SNAP. Okay, and he was laughing. Well, if I could walk to the kitchen, I would go there, but he can't. Okay, so it would be a stationary thing. Well, he goes to the bathroom, so, but and I'm all over the place. So, but we don't meet the age requirements. So unfortunately, like I said, I would, but I do encourage anybody and everybody to give it a chance. And if you qualify to try it out. I'm not being paid to say this. I'm being very honest about this. We do need more research. Also, Jennifer and Katrina, and same with Jura, are also in contact with lots and lots of families who may qualify and may be interested in participating. So I hope that you're excited about this as I am, and as a caregiver, because this could provide answers for us down the road, and in ways that we don't really know right now. Okay, but you did mention the ADLs, and I mean, maybe even safety features, or we could find out a lot about their behavior. So I think, to me, that is fascinating. So like I said, I would do it in a second if I could, but I do encourage, and I have to say, an extra $150 in your pocket every month doesn't hurt. Okay. So, so anyway, but that's a side note. And anyway, that's my spiel on it.
One of the things, it's really hard in this sometimes to speak generally about the various benefits that you might see. But one of the things that we really are looking for is to be able to support changes in care planning. And we have one couple, elderly couple, that is in the study, And as an example, they went and had a neurological exam. He's got early dementia. And the doctor said, basically, you're at a point right now where it's something that is definitely changing, but you're not at a point where we can do much currently. You need to give us a call when you determine that you have a significant change. And he and his wife told us, we have no idea what that means, what's significant. And so our data can help them to quantify that for the doctors. There really is a change, and therefore there should be a change in the care plan that's been associated with that. And so a big part of what this data is intended to do is to give validated information to doctors so that and other care providers so that it can be used to support changes in care plans.
Thank you, John. All right, anybody else have any other questions?
Well, what John just said kind of has changed my attitude. When I was watching the video, I thought, well, how is that going to work? Because I do so much of that. And it's not like my husband does a lot of those things. He does do things. I mean, he's certainly capable. But I find that some of the things you're tracking are a lot of things that I do. And it's like, would it work if, he's the one who's supposed to have the tracker and he's the one who's going to be followed? But by what you just said, if it's information that we can use to present to the doctor for changes, and we have long-term care insurance, if this could document that so we know when it's time to seek, additional help, maybe this would be valuable for that.
So two things. One, I want to clarify that also the caregiver does carry a tag. So seeing the interaction between the caregiver and the care recipient in that regard. But the second thing that you mentioned is long-term care insurance. We've already had a whole series of conversations with individuals who did not, that the long-term care insurance looks at the ADL scores and uses that type of assessment to determine what they cover in terms of the caregiver. And so you may not be personally in that situation, but that's one of the uses of these ADL scores in the care community. And so again, the idea here is that at the end of the research study, those would be a validated ADL score that could be used to argue for improved care against things like the long-term care insurance groups as well.
And I think to echo that, you're saying that you're already doing so many of these activities, and over time you may feel that you are continuing to take on more and more responsibility. Right. And what's great about the system is you may feel that you're taking on more activities to support your husband, and the system can reflect that and show and back that up with real data. And so when you're sharing that information to a doctor or someone, then you can say, I feel like I'm spending more time doing this for him, and it would reflect that. And that's, I think, one of the great parts.
Yeah, the idea being that it's very objective data instead of subjective data.
Okay.
John,
Well, that's good.
this is Dura with True Heart, and we have a number of patients that we look at consistently with dementia and cognitive impairment that we just simply have to go based off the health and history and what we see when we see them. There's not a lot, that can prove where they're at in terms of the trajectory of their diagnosis. Would this be something that we can utilize as a tool and refer our patients to this trial that might help us be able to validate or understand more so where they're at in the trajectory of their diagnosis for approval for hospice?
Absolutely. I mean, and if we wanted, Dura, if you wanted to get in touch with us, we can show you some real examples from the study that show exactly that. And so we can show the comparison between the ADL surveys basically and our system, where, you know, normally, again, you get a data point at best every couple of months, maybe once every 6 months, with the subjective aspect, and we're basically giving you a score on about a 4-hour interval. And so we're seeing short-term and mid-term type stuff to support those types of changes.
Wonderful. And your contact information, I know, is it the information that we have in the Caregiving Cafe link?
I think so.
Okay. Thank you.
I believe you've posted on your Facebook page, if I recall correctly, Lynn.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did everywhere that I could. So, and I will send out I will include it in our forthcoming email. I usually send out an email after our Caregiving Cafe Zoom meeting, kind of recapping what we did, what we talked about, what we learned, and new resources and things. And so I'll be sure to include your contact information and a blurb about your study.
And
Right.
I'm putting it in the chat right now, the various contact information.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
I have a question. This is Patricia Bowman. My parents are currently being monitored with video cameras that have, you know, we can see them and we can hear them and we can talk to them through them. We also have them wearing devices to help if they fall, you know, the medical alert things. They're very resistant to technology. One thing that might persuade them to participate is obviously the monetary compensation, because while they're not hard up by any means, anything to you know, to help increase that income would be wonderful for them and for us. What they typically do is turn it over into a contribution to their great grandkids' college fund. So it's just great that way. But the thing that I really wanted to question is, with them carrying those devices, they're very sporadic about their use. They don't like them at all. They realize the benefit of them, and we know there's challenges involved with all the different kinds of things that are being introduced. But how do you, I saw in the video, it seemed like sometimes she was wearing it in her pocket and sometimes was it a watch? Were there different ways of wearing the tag, or was it just always in the pocket?
So if they have a walker, wheelchair, or cane, we just attach it to that. And so that's that. Most of the people actually in our study end up having some type of mobility aid in that regard. The watch in the video has nothing to do with our stuff. It was just that key fob basically. And we have various clips. We have various things that they can use. Again, this is research, but an awful lot of what we do doesn't even require that at all. So the wearable is a very nice to have. We actually, in the consent agreement, we basically say 50% of the time that you're awake. You know, we have people that forget it days on end. You know, we have lots of people that lose it, wash it, you know, etc. And we can deal with all of those types of things. So this is research. This is not a product. We're trying to figure out what's the right mechanism in the product and in the second generation devices. So again, you know, it's depending on their situation, it may be as simple as just we put it on the walker. So
that helps. And I really like the fact that it's a device. The bathroom thing, when I first saw that on your slide, I was like, oh, they're going to kill us if we do that. But it's not recording. It's not the same thing.
No, there's no, that device is actually an ambient light device. So we know when they turn on the light and when they don't, and a flush sensor. That's it. It just drops in, it's battery operated, you know, typically nobody even sees it. It's
Perfect.
behind the toilet typically.
And we hear a lot of concerns and justifiable concerns
Yeah.
about people not wanting
Privacy.
cameras and audio, and it's something very invasive. And so that is something that they've thought very carefully about, because I'm a social worker, I'm not an engineer and everything. And so I really appreciate that they made it non-invasive and that there is no audio and no video, and there's not even motion sensors. And so it is mainly collecting that daily activity through appliance usage and location data. And so but that's a concern we hear a lot, and I hear that and appreciate that this isn't that way.
Yes, thank you. Linda, were you gonna say something?
Well, as the caregiver, when I leave the house, so it records when I'm gone and when I come back?
It would record that you had left the house. We have no insight into what happens 5 feet outside the front door.
Okay.
And so we would see when you leave and come back.
Okay, but the other thing is my husband's having stability issues right now. He's fallen a couple times in the last couple months. It's not every day, every week, every month, but he has fallen. Would that indicate a fall too?
So our devices are not what's called a personal emergency response type system.
No, I meant just the fact that
we would probably be able to see that in the data. What we're trying to look at is changes in gaits and such that might be predictive of a fall risk, not a fall detection. So we're looking at the prevention side instead of the detection.
Well, his gait has definitely changed, and I'm thinking about getting him a trainer just to help him, with the gait, because to me, it's obviously changed.
Yeah.
So, but that wouldn't record the gait, and that's good too.
It will record a variety of things associated with gait. I want to be clear, we don't have an accelerometer on what we're doing or anything like that. So I'm the technologist, and so I like to be very accurate in that regard. But yes, gait is one of the things that we're looking at with the data in this research to see how well we can actually identify that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
John, are you able to email that little clip that you played?
It's actually on the website. So in the chat, I put the birkelandcurrent.com/NIA-study, and that website has that video on there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, and I will also include it in the email. I thought I had included it in my email to everybody. And my emails tend to get kind of long because I just keep adding info to it. But I will also put in the email that will go out in the next couple of days to all the family caregivers. We generally send it to about 150 family caregivers.
Okay.
And I'll make it a point to also send it to about 50 other resources.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll share that. All right. One last thing, and then we'll have to move on to Jennifer. Thank you for being patient, Jennifer. But I think this is also really good for your community, both in your agency, Home Care at Blue Water, and also for C.A.P.S. I think it would be very interesting for C.A.P.S. But in the interest of getting things done, I have mentioned therapeutic phiblets in caregiving, which are very, very, very much needed. Sometimes we don't need to spill all the details about things. I'm not saying lie to anybody, because we all know that's wrong, but sometimes in order to save agitation, time, confusion, and overwhelm, we don't need to explain every single thing that we do. If somebody asks, then give an answer that is appropriate with their level of cognition, except when they say, oh, where is so-and-so and that person passed away, then you decide. But oftentimes, if they're going to get upset every time you say, no, he passed away last month, what's the point? When you don't want to be agitating and upsetting anybody every time the subject comes up. So that's where therapeutic phiblets come in. If you think your loved one is going to be upset because there's this device in the toilet tank, well, don't mention it. you know, or you can say, oh, it's a, you know, deodorizing thing or something to do with a water level. Okay, you know, okay, so you do not have to, because that, if they don't understand fully, they can become confused, agitated, scared, you know, so, and that applies to everything, not just devices or technology, you know, but in everything. My mother would give me the hand and she'd say, whatever. And I used to say, and I know some people have heard me say, I thought, oh my gosh, you don't whatever me, you know, in my head. And I thought that's very rude because we don't do that. Well, that was her way to tell me, overload, shut it, you know, because I was explaining things to her. She wasn't understanding. And after a few minutes, like, yeah, but that was her way. So live and learn, right? Research. So that's what I'm saying. Don't let, you know, oh, this, you don't have to explain every single thing you do. Just do it, you know, and you know what's right and you know what's wrong, you know, so it's not going to hurt anybody to put a little fob in the drawer the way that thing was there. And if they ask what it is, oh, it's just this little thing that I found yesterday. And maybe they'll forget about it. Yeah, it's a thing, you know, that's those, my mother said junk, her junk. Yeah, this is the stuff, you know, so I'm learning from C.A.P.S. No, that's how she says, because that's really how some people talk. So anyway, just throwing that out there, you know, don't be totally put off by these, but I thank you very much, John, for being here, and Rachel as well. You both, I wish you well with this, and I think this is going to be a really exciting project. We at Caregiving Cafe will do whatever we can to support you and to help you find people, you know, keep us posted, you know, but thank you very much for visiting us today.
Sure. And if you don't mind, I'd like to hear on the Parkinson side what's
yes,
going
of
on
course,
there.
that's fine.
And then I may drop off after that.
Fine. Yeah, okay, all right, well, thank you so much. All right, well, as promised, Jennifer Prescott is here representing Capital Area Parkinson Society. And she's also with Blue Water Home Care. And so Jennifer, I'll turn it over to you. Let us know a little bit about Blue Water, and we are all ears about C.A.P.S.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. I'm going to start just by telling you a little bit about myself. So I'm a registered nurse by trade, been a nurse for about 26 years. And my background is I've been working in geriatric care for the past 25 out of 26 years. I worked in pediatrics for about a year, and I decided that that was not for me. I was afraid that my kids, when I had them, were actually going to have health issues. So I was afraid. And so I decided that I was going to work with seniors, and, you know, because we're all going to get old one day. And so I'm in the sandwich generation. So I actually I have, you know, young children from the ages of 9 to 20, and I'm also a caregiver. So my mother-in-law, my husband and I got married 4 years ago, and my mother-in-law moved in with us, and she has early stage dementia, and she lives in a little house on our property, a little casita above our garage. And it's truly a blessing taking care of her. But I have to tell you, being a nurse, you would think that I have all the answers. I'm actually a dementia specialist as well. Again, you would think that I have all the answers. And the answer is I don't have all the answers. It's a constant learning. And that's why I'm really supportive, you know, of Lynn and Caregiving Cafe, because I feel like, you know, we need to reach people where they are. And I think now the great thing about the pandemic, there's blessings that have come out of it, and definitely blessings for our family, is that, you know, we're able to connect with people wherever they are. Maybe it's too challenging for them to actually get out of the house. And so this is a true blessing. Lynn and I have known each other for, gosh, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years, a long time. My background's in hospice. So I ran a large hospice in Austin. And then about 4 years ago, my husband and I decided that we wanted to start Blue Water Home Care. And the reason why we started our company was because my background was in end-of-life support. And I noticed that, you know, with hospice care, it's intermittent care. And folks only, you know, people think when you go on hospice, there's sometimes people think that there's going to be a nurse there. And I'm sure that folks from True Heart know this, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? And the answer is they're not. And so I wanted to develop a company that was sort of a skilled approach. And so we have 2 nurses on staff, myself and Sharon. We actually just added a 3rd nurse on staff as of yesterday, because we're just growing like crazy. And what we do is we really do the education and training for our caregivers and make sure that they're supported. We've got about 125 caregivers that support all of Central Texas. So one of the things that I'm passionate about is Parkinson's disease. And so we've taken care of a lot of clients over really my lifetime that have had Parkinson's. And that started for me when I worked at Duke Hospital. So gosh, about 15 years ago, I lived in Durham, North Carolina, took a job at Duke Hospital, and I ran their pain, palliative care, and neurology clinics. And that was really my first experience, a true experience with movement and memory disorders. And that to me was where I just found like alive. I mean, I was taking care of people with Parkinson's disease, with ALS, and of course, dementia, Alzheimer's, a lot of complexities, aphasias, those types of things. And what I noticed is that, yes, we have the client that we're taking care of, or the patient, but the families are dealing with, the ramifications for a long time. I mean, for someone with Parkinson's, I mean, they may live for 20 years, they may have an early onset, or they might live for 20 plus years with Parkinson's. Dementia, a little bit smaller, maybe in the 7 to 10 year range. But it's something that impacts the whole family. And so I got involved last year. I just called Capital Area Parkinson's looking for more education for our staff, and then ended up learning more and really found that it was something that I could be involved in. And so I'm on the board. I'm in charge of their vice president of outreach. And so I'm going to share my screen. So bear with me here. So bear with me here. I just need to be able to show my slideshow. Should be able to give me 1 second here. I want you to be able to see the full screen. Don't let me right now. Hold on here. Oh, I can move it. Okay. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. All right. So I'm here for Capital Area Parkinson's, and we're thrilled to be here. That's my email address. If you have any questions, feel free to, email me. I can connect you with people with C.A.P.S as well. So first of all, we're going to talk about Parkinson's disease. If I can get it to go. Oh, okay. All right. So we're going to talk about 5 different things today, and I'll make sure to keep it pretty short. So we're going to talk about what is Parkinson's disease, who is impacted, the causes of Parkinson's disease, the treatments, because unfortunately there isn't a cure for Parkinson's disease, and C.A.P.S resources. And again, C.A.P.S is Capital Area Parkinson's Society. And we are local. We're a local 501c3. We are located in Central Texas, and our office is at the Parsons House. Okay. So what is Parkinson's disease? It's a movement disorder that affects the central nervous system. The symptoms occur because of low dopamine levels. And so let's talk about what does that mean? Because I'm sure everybody, I don't know if you can do like a thumbs up, but everybody knows someone with Parkinson's disease. So what does dopamine in the brain do? So the condition occurs due to damage of the death of the nerve cells or neurons. So everybody knows about neurons. That's how we communicate in our brain. And it's an area of the brain called the substantia nigra. So that's the part, it's a middle part of the brain. And this is the part of the brain that controls a movement. And it's essential that there's enough dopamine in the brain to actually function appropriately. So this is just a little, a side of the brain so you can see what it looks like. And so the substantia nigra is actually over here. And so you can see the different parts. And so basically there's these dopamine pathways, and what happens is there's not enough dopamine in the substantia nigra with Parkinson's disease. And so there's issues with the pathways, and they actually degenerate. Okay, so what's dopamine? It's actually Parkinson's disease symptoms mainly result from the low or failing levels of dopamine. So again, it's a neurotransmitter. It happens when the cells that produce the dopamine die in the brain, and it's really important in the sending messages to the part of the brain that controls movement and coordination. And so that's why the medications that we take for someone who has Parkinson's disease impact dopamine. So dopamine is a chemical messenger, and it transmits the signals from one place, so the substantia nigra in the brain, to the corpus stratum. Both form part of the basal ganglia. These structures in the brain help to facilitate movement. And so when you have these low levels of dopamine, it actually disrupts this pathway and it causes this abnormal firing. So many of you would be used to seeing somebody who has Parkinson's because one side of their body will be shaking. And it's usually one side or the other is more significant. And so evidence suggests that most people with Parkinson's disease lose 60 to 80% or more of dopamine by the time they present symptoms. And that's really important because, you know, we're pretty far down the pathway for these folks that are diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And so you can see that they're significantly lacking in dopamine. So it's a late effect that a lot of times people are diagnosed. So who is impacted? Right now, there's about 1.5 million people in the United States that have Parkinson's disease, with approximately 60,000 people diagnosed each year. In the past 25 years, that number is actually doubled. Pretty significant. So we're not really sure what causes Parkinson's disease. Experts really feel that there's some genetical factors, and I've actually seen that in my practice. We take care of a mother. She doesn't have Parkinson's, but we take care of her son, and come to find out the father has Parkinson's disease as well. This gentleman had early stage onset, the father had later stage onset, but it's pretty interesting to note. They also think that there's some exposure to toxins. Now, there's nothing set in stone that they've said that one toxin. There's also potentially Lewy bodies in the brain, which actually, or there's mitochondrial issues. So I know that's a lot of potentially mumbo jumbo, but the mitochondria in the brain and any of our cells, it's the powerhouse. If anybody remembers back to chemistry, that was probably the one thing that I remember, is that the mitochondria is actually the powerhouse of the cell. And what they think is actually the mitochondria may have some impact, but they're still not sure. So what are the early signs and symptoms? And so this is important, especially, you know, we're taking care of so many folks in our community. The first thing is movement changes. It may be a small tremor on one side of the body. It may be a lack of balance. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have Parkinson's. You may have another neurological disease. You may have electrolyte imbalances. You may have a softer voice. And that is something that we see a lot. Their voice actually changes. And one of the things with Parkinson's is they have an awesome program called Big and Loud. And this is an opportunity for them, and a lot of our clients do Big and Loud, and they can do it at home as well to help them with their voice and strengthening that voice. They also may have some fixed facial expressions where their faces are not moving. They usually have sleep pattern changes as well. And that's one of the first signs that we see sometimes. They have changes in their handwriting. Well, you know, again, for me, I don't know about all of you, but I'm, you know, almost 50, and I'm noticing my handwriting is definitely changing. I used to have really pretty handwriting, and now it's definitely a little messy. But that is something that we see sometimes. And then REM sleep. So, you know, these are just some early signs that we might see. There's 4 main symptoms that we see with Parkinson's. The first is a tremor. That's the most obvious that we're going to see. Again, it may be one area, or it usually goes to the both areas, but it usually starts in one area. And I can tell you that when an individual is under stress, emotional or physical stress on their body, those tremors get worse. Case in point, I was actually at a client 2 days ago, just kind of filling in, doing an extra assessment, and I could notice that he was starting to get anxious. There was just some communication between him and his wife, and things were just getting a little bit anxious. And I realized I could see his tremors get worse. And she realized it, I realized it. We ended up turning on the TV, and he was in the military. So we're able to turn on some, military TV. And she actually gave him a half of one of his medications. And I can see in the next 20 to 30 minutes, he actually calmed down a little bit. You'll see that rigidity. So what is a rigidity? Pretty easy. It's muscle stiffness or achy feeling. If you're tremoring substantially, like a lot of the folks that we see, of course, you're going to have an achy feeling, because if your body, just try for 5 minutes straight to just put your arm, if you want to understand what it's like to be someone with Parkinson's, a portion of it, just try to like move your, for 5 minutes straight. My guess is most of us probably can't do that. It's hard, it tires your body, it causes anxiety, and of course you're going to have an achy feeling. There's bradykinesia, and that's slow movement. So to brady, people have heard of bradycardia. That just means slow movement. And that can make it really difficult for people to get dressed or to do activities of daily living with the bradykinesia. There's also postural instability or poor balance. So think about if you're shaking one side, having tremors, but then your other side, think about trying to walk straight if you're doing that. So you can kind of see why those symptoms can be really difficult. So I like to spend some time talking about the other common symptoms, because for me, I feel like these other symptoms can actually be worse in some aspects than the primary symptoms. Mood changes. So, think about ourselves. When we have a mood change, it usually doesn't only impact us, right? If we're impatient or we're stressed, we have anxiety. I don't know about I have 4 children in my house. It impacts everybody. And so mood changes are something that we need to know about. Depression, we need to make sure that if people are diagnosed, that we're not forgetting about the fact that they may be depressed. And that's a normal thing that could happen. We want to make sure that they're supported. Chewing or swallowing issues. So think about having that rigidity that can impact your whole body. You can also have swallowing issues. Typically that moves towards the middle stage. However, difficulty swallowing can be, that could cause someone to lose their life. So if you're seeing those things, and this could be just someone who has dementia, if you're seeing that with your loved one, somebody who, is coughing when they eat, that actually might be a sign, not of an allergy. It might actually be a sign that they're having some issues in their throat with swallowing. So I definitely would have you connect with your doctor about that. Constipation. So again, anytime we're taking medications, and as we age, constipation is definitely an issue. Skin issues as well. Dementia can actually be another symptom that we see. Those mood changes. It's very hard, and it can be very depressing when you're, being diagnosed with a life-limiting. We also could have delusions and hallucinations. Those are very scary, and that might be something. I'm not sure. I don't know if we can mute somebody. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay, that's all right.
I don't know that I can do it. I'm sorry about that. Dawn,
oh, no, don't worry about it. It's all good. It's all good. So delusions and hallucinations can be very challenging. What I know about delusions and hallucinations is that it's a real thing for that person. And so if you or your loved one, not you, of course, but it could be, are experiencing these things, it's not something to put it underneath the rug. It is definitely something urgently to talk to your doctor about. Sometimes there needs to be some medication adjustments. There may be a urinary tract infection. So those are things that we need to think about. The other thing is a low epinephrine level. So this is something that we see in Parkinson's disease. And the things that we see with that is depression. We see more rigidity, tremor, anxiety, difficulty focusing, again, dementia, and blood pressure changes. I had another client about a week ago, and his wife was telling me that When he stands up, that's called orthostatic hypertension, and his blood pressure drops. And so that to me, and he had Parkinson's, is a symptom that his epinephrine, his norepinephrine levels are low. And so she's actually going to go back to the neurologist and also to the cardiologist, because if someone has a sudden drop in their blood pressure, what happens? They get dizzy, they fall, they can break a hip, break a wrist, they can have a lot of bad things happen. Just give me one sec. Okay, risk factors. So some of the risk factors that we know is that if someone had a traumatic brain injury, if they were exposed to toxins, and I kind of put that, we don't know exactly what those toxins are. If you're a man, you have a 50% greater chance of having Parkinson's disease, and it usually occurs after 60. Although we do see that people have Parkinson's disease, Michael J. Fox, that occurred prior to 60. He had an early onset, and we have an early onset group for people that have Parkinson's disease that were diagnosed early at Capital Area Parkinson's. It's a support group, but it's a fun one. I'm going to tell you guys about it too. And so what is the treatment? So unfortunately, like I said in the very beginning, there is not a cure for Parkinson's disease. I do believe in the future, I feel it, that we're going to get one, but we're just not there yet. So what do? There's medications, obviously related to dopamine. There's also a deep brain stimulator that helps with movement. And there's some supportive therapies, and there's things like exercise therapy, diet, yoga, music therapy. You know, one of the folks, I think it was Dawn, I can't remember, I think it was Dawn that talked about his wife who has dementia, and the only way that she was able to communicate was when the music came on. And so I can tell you from my experience, there are some awesome music therapists out there that do Zoom calls. They do it for people with Parkinson's, dementia. It has been unbelievable to see the improvements of people, you know, when we're able to connect with them through music. Speech therapy is also another therapy as well that can be very helpful. They have the Big and Loud program. There's also, they can do swallow tests to make sure and teach them if there's tips and tricks to safely swallow, because swallowing is an issue with people with Parkinson's. So what's the Parkinson's Society? So we actually started in 1984, and it was really based on trying to get people together and to support people. We now have over 500 members. We sponsor about 20 support groups now. We're a 501c3, like we talked about, and we serve all of Central Texas, which is Travis and Williamson, Kays, Bastrop, Burnett. And it's open to anyone with an interest in Parkinson's disease. And of course, you could have Parkinson's disease as well. But we've got, and I'm going to go over some of the stuff that we do. So our mission is to address the needs of persons with Parkinson's disease, their care partners, and the public by providing education, current information, and support, and research and resources, social interaction, and emotional support. And we've got a lot. So we're going to talk about the education that we do. So we've got a July education that's actually next week. It's a two-part series. The first part is about expected loss, coping with anticipatory grief. And I know that, you know, all of us on this call have had someone affected, you know, by a life-limiting illness. And when you have something like dementia or Parkinson's, ALS, these are things that, you know, it's sort of a long goodbye, you know, when you see your loved one decline and decline. And we have something called anticipatory grief. So that just means that we're starting to grieve their loss prior to them passing away. And so Garrick, and I think he probably has presented from you before, he's going to be presenting from 2 to 3. And if you're interested, just go on the C.A.P.S website. You can just click on the link for Zoom. We're also doing on July 29th, giving the gift of advanced care planning. He's going to do that as well. And it's, again, an hour. If you can't attend, that's okay. The videos will be on our Facebook page and our website as well. And then every single month we have education. Right now it's still virtual. I'm hoping that by the fall we'll be able to do in person. And we usually do them on Saturdays at St. David's. We're just waiting for just a few more months. So the other thing that I'm really proud about is C.A.P.S Cares. And this is something that's tangible that we really can help, help our community potentially financially. So one of the things that we do is that we raise money every year. We had a virtual gala last year, and then we're having an in-person gala this year. I'm very excited about that. I think we're going to be doing, a country and Western theme. So if you're interested, check us out on the Capillary Parkinson's website, as well as our Facebook page. But some of the things that we could do at C.A.P.S Cares is we can help to facilitate family meetings. We have a lot of social workers on our board. We have a lot of people on the board to help with this facilitation of family meetings. I know one of the folks was talking about, communication with her sister. And I know that those can be very challenging, those conversations, when one person sees a decline or one person doesn't think that mom or dad needs care, but we're seeing changes, or we're the people that live with the person, but the people that don't live, don't realize that they actually do need care. We can talk about recommendations for housing. So what does that look like? Is it a community? Is it a memory care? We can talk about assistance with medication resources. Maybe you have a short-term, issue or a need, a financial need. Please reach out to us. Transportation resources. Again, we can connect you, or you may be in a situation, a financial situation, where you need some financial assistance. Please give us a call. We have funds available. We also can help you with community programs, which I know that Lynn does it as well. If they're looking to connect with people, we work with Age of Central Texas all the time. We're always connecting with other support groups in the community. So that's one of the things that's very important, and we can help as well. Maybe help with assistance with government applications, maybe Medicaid, if it's something we can, help you do those kind of things. Food resources, again, you may have a situation, and we all have situations as family members. Reach out to us. We may be able to help you. Home safety evaluations. We have a lot of people on the board that are willing to just come in, no charge, do a home safety evaluation. There's no charge to it, just to see, where are your gaps, where are some areas of opportunity, and maybe it's us coming in versus someone who lives there. And because the big thing I know with older folks is these rugs. I don't know what it is about rugs and our seniors, but they love their rugs. Am I the only person that has seen that? I don't know what it is. They love their rugs. Yes, it's crazy. My dad's the same way. I just went to see him, and he's almost 89 years old, and he has all these silly rugs. I'm like, Dad. He's like, I like my rugs. I'm like, well, you're going to fall and crack your head open. He's like, I don't care. I'm like, all right, whatever, it is what it is. And I'm a nurse. We can also do assistance with advanced directives and also respite care resources. So, reach out to us if you're in a pickle. We do have some funds available for respite as well. So, paying for some respite. So please reach out to us. We would love to help you. One of the things I forgot to say is about our support groups. So most of our support groups are virtual, although we have one at Grace Covenant Church that has been in person. That's continuing. That's on our website. That's once a month. So we have support groups for people with Parkinson's, caregivers that are, caring for someone with Parkinson's, early onset. We also work with Power for Parkinson's as well. We're going to be starting. So if any of you live in the Cedar Park, Lakeway area, Westlake area, we're going to be starting an in-person on, I believe it's the first week of August. It's going to be on our website at Belmont Village. And so we're going to be doing a caregiver, support group in person. At the same time, it'll be 11 a.m. It's a Wednesday. At the same time, the people with Parkinson's could actually do a Power for Parkinson's class. And I think they go to lunch afterwards. I think that's what they do. And then we're going to be adding also another support group for people with Parkinson's there as well. And you don't have to live it's the Lakeway, Belmont Village Lakeway. You don't have to live there. Anybody can go. They just want you to obviously wear a mask if you haven't been immunized. And then if you haven't been immunized, you can get your temperature checked and then not wear a mask. This is the information for Capital Area Parkinson Society. This is the phone number, the email address, and obviously the website, pretty self-explanatory. And again, we at Blue Water Home Care, we are happy to provide any free of service. We can do a home safety evaluation. We can just come and talk with you, just talk to you about what your needs are. You can call us, we can Zoom, we can do in person. We can do whatever you need. So does anybody have any questions for me?
About the home safety evaluation, thank you, Jennifer. That was really, really informative. The home safety evaluation, it's kind of self-explanatory, but I would imagine you do look around to see how the home could be made safer for everyone. And I know definitely, I do get it about the rugs. I've also heard making sure that there's enough space to move around. If you have a walker or a cane, just move it out a little bit and things. So can anybody, if somebody wanted this home safety evaluation, does somebody just contact you?
Yes, just give us a call. I put in the chat, it's the 512-872-2955. It's Blue Water Home Care. You can call us, find us online. We'll be happy. We have 5 people that go out to the home and do this home safety evaluations. I mean, we're really looking to identify, our goal as a company is to help people aging in place safely. And so, there's people like my mother-in-law who is early stage. And so we're constantly looking, is there a safe place? Like right now, she's not in a walker, but she did have a knee replacement last year. So we want to make sure, is it safe for her to get through the doorways? Do we need to remove a doorway? And I think pre-planning, making sure that, a lot of people just go out to the store and they just go to Walgreens and buy, a shower chair. Well, that shower chair may be itty bitty and doesn't really function appropriately. And what sometimes happens is we go out there and it's easy coming from somebody else, and I'm a nurse, versus coming from the family. And so we're just going to do a safety. I'm not trying to sell you anything. It's really just, hey, this is what's going on. Let's just do a little evaluation. Let's look and see if there's any fall risk opportunities that you might have. Maybe it's as simple as, dad's having trouble getting out of his chair, and it's really low to the ground. And that's happened. I mean, it's just, a couple $100 you can order from Amazon. They even have these lift chairs. You'd be shocked. They're not that expensive anymore. That could be a huge difference. If you have somebody, maybe we just need to put some tape, so that they know to put their hands there. We can also, when we go out there, if it seems like they might need home health care, or, a hospice referral, we can share information with them and we can help to connect with them. It's really just about connecting people with appropriate resources in the community and making them feel like they're not alone. Because I know that it's very isolating. And even though I'm a nurse, it doesn't make it any less isolating for me, because, we have to deal with the same situations. When to make a decision about when my mother-in-law can stop driving. These are things that we all are dealing with as family members and caregivers. And so anything that we can do to support our community. But I have found, little tweaks, things like double-sided tape, if they love their rug, they're obsessed with their rug, just doing some double-sided tape at the bottom, or, saying to them, okay, well, maybe we don't have a rug here at the front door that's going to have you, basically fly and fall, but maybe we relocate it over here, or, there's some things that we can do. And then if we feel like if it's a situation that, they need some permanent things, maybe in their bathroom for safety, then what we're going to do is, my usual recommendation is to work with home health on that, because they have, the experts, the physical therapists and the occupational therapists. We want to make sure that, we're giving them the right the right thing, but it's a initial, I mean, it takes about, 25 minutes or something. It doesn't take a long time, but we're just kind of going from place to place in their house and looking for those areas of opportunity. Maybe it's a situation where they have to send the dog out at night, but the lights aren't on. Maybe they didn't realize, that the smoke detector is not working. I mean, that's a safety issue. There's lots of different things that we can do. Maybe they could really benefit from a hospital bed, or maybe they could benefit from, it's like $30. There are these little things that go on either side of the bed that basically it's like these little holders that'll help you to like just get your stability. Maybe somebody has, and anybody could have, that orthostatic hypotension we talked about, which is a fancy word that when you sit up or stand up, your blood pressure drops. So maybe they need this extra handle so they can hold on. I mean, it's like $20 or $30 on Amazon. I mean, that can be a lifesaver. That can save somebody's hip. That can save someone's life. Like, you would be surprised to see, the types of things. And just having somebody do it that's not the family member, because it's just kind of sometimes easier.
Yeah, definitely. I've heard comments like that before from the other caregivers. So, all right. Well, I thank you for spending time with us today. And like I said, both presentations were recorded and they will be shared. I will put them on YouTube, and then I will send a link to all the family caregivers, and I will include both of your contact information for if anybody has any questions or comments, they know where to find you. So, well, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you again, John and Rachel, for spending time with us, and Katrina, and I know Dura, I hope you feel a lot better. And